Most AFL fans remember the events of the Adelaide Crows 2018 Preseason Camp and how that affected the team's projection well into the present day, 4 years later, leaving key players gone and fractured relationships within the organisation. But now, in 2022, new revelations about the events of the camp have been uncovered, and it seems that the way in which certain major news outlets reported on the subject negatively impacted the Crows franchise to this day. So, as a Crows fan myself, I thought I would delve into the timeline of the infamous camp and recap what lies have been widely believed for years. Without further ado, let's get into it. The Adelaide Crows went through great hardships but also triumphs in the build-up to the preseason camp. In the years leading up to 2018, the team struggled due to the loss of both head coach Phil Walsh and assistant coach Dean Bailey, one of the saddest events that players can go through together. But overcoming this, the Crows came out guns a-blazing in the 2017 AFL season. They played incredibly well, but a historic season came to an end as they lost in the grand final by 48 points to Richmond, the Tigers handing a convincing and embarrassing loss to the Crows. Most fans of the league, myself included, thought the Crows would bounce back in the 2018 season and hopefully land another berth in the biggest game in the sport. Obviously, that did not end up happening as they entered the 2017-18 off-season. Collective Minds is a Queensland-based consultancy group. They state that their organisation is hired by sporting teams and businesses to build a mentally resilient culture. They offer services to both individuals through books and podcasts, as well as catering to larger sporting teams, such as the South Sydney Rabbitohs of the NRL. While working alongside the Crows in the 2017 season, their methods were seen as being both extremely strange, as well as being generally effective. One of the more well-known sessions which was run involved Crows players running successive 100-metre sprints while the Richmond Tigers theme song was playing after their 2017 grand final loss. It's safe to say that the worst was yet to come for both organisations involved. So, after the Crows players were flown to the Gold Coast on that fateful day in 2018, one of the biggest disasters in modern football began. Players were transported to a forest located hours away outside of the Gold Coast. This was viewed as a complete surprise to the Crows players, who, I would guess, would be expecting a somewhat normal and fun camp to get them pumped up before the season commences. Upon arriving, the players were split into 3 groups based on their experience within the team. Group 1 contained players such as Eddie Betts, Rory Sloane and Tex Walker. Groups 2 and 3 were composed of younger players, such as Paul Seedsman and Brodie Smith. The experience of the camp supposedly differed based on which group you're a part of, with Group 1 being subject to the harshest tasks and activities. Members of Group 1 were blindfolded and driven an hour away until they reached their base camp. Upon arrival, they were not told where they were or what they were doing there. One of the so-called exercises undertaken by this group was to stare at a partner, alternating which eye they were looking at. Creepy stuff. During this activity, senior player Tom Lynch collapsed and started vomiting. Camp workers refused to call for medical attention, stating that it was only dizziness. But under action taken by fellow players, the Crows club doctor was called and Lynch was driven back to the Gold Coast. Groups 2 and 3 were subject to less severe exercises, but on the bus trip they were told to keep their heads down while heavy metal music blasted throughout the vehicle. Another controversial incident at the camp involved the use of a quote-unquote talking stick, through use of an Aboriginal Australian digging stick as a means for players to uncover their deepest weaknesses to the rest of the group. Collective Minds has since apologised for this action, as it was faced with backlash from players of Aboriginal descent, such as Eddie Betts, Curtly Hampton, Cam Ellis-Yeoman and Wayne Malira. This is not a good look for the camp, as this is confirmed knowledge now. Now, this is where the story may differ, as this was reported by journalist Sam McClure, who has come under recent fire. He stated that on the second day of the camp, players were woken up and introduced to a man in the woods, known only as Wolfgang. Players were tied to a tree and were only able to walk free once reaching a knife located 10 metres away. And of course, abuse was held at the players while doing this, including subject matter based on personal relationships and childhood trauma. The Adelaide Crows and Collective Minds organisations have rejected this series of events as fact. The aftermath of the camp was at the forefront of the Crows' performance as a team, and the trajectory the organisation was headed in. It would lead to frayed relationships between the players and the club as a whole, and most assume that this led to players such as Eddie Betts leaving the organisation not long after. As well as this, the Crows finished the 2018 season in 12th position, a far cry from their grand final performance the previous year. As a result of this, their head coach Don Pike was fired soon after, and the organisation gained a bad reputation in relation to how they treated their players. This reputation has not fully been shaken, but the Crows' future is looking up as a rebuild is underway. It can be wondered what would have happened if this camp did not occur. Could the Crows have made it back to the big game? And could they have possibly won it all? No one will ever know. In my opinion, this is one of the biggest what-ifs in AFL history. So that is what was thought to be true for a while. Last year, the Crows were actually cleared of any breach of health and safety laws while on the camp. And in new findings, the Nine News organisation has recently been involved in lengthy discussions regarding reports made by journalists Caroline Wilson and Sam McClure, and are taking down 13 news articles under threat of legal action by the Collective Minds company. Crows fanatic and AFL insider M. Fugg has been quoted as stating that McClure's credibility has gone out the window, and that in any other profession, the presentation of such fabricated information would lead to you not having a job anymore. He also noted that it's a big wake-up call to everyone to always question the information that they consume. Former Crows player Josh Jenkins has spoken out briefly in an interview on SEN Breakfast, stating that "I can only speak for myself, but I'm pretty sure I know why others haven't spoken out, because they've had careers that they've been trying to pursue elsewhere, at other different clubs and in a different life." He also noted, quote, "I think being frustrated has probably passed us by. A lot of people claim to know what happened, make all these large statements, but not many of them are very accurate. This leads to the belief that the camp was not as bad as previously believed, but may have withheld some undertones which negated players' mental health throughout the duration of their stay. The overall effect of the camp is present nonetheless, and the complete accurate story of the Gold Coast visit may never be known. But nowadays, the Crows organisation is looking forward, and with young rising stars and a promising start into a rebuild, I, as a fan, am happy the way in which the team is headed. The rumours and truths surrounding the camp will always be present, but now, after all these years, it can be set as a figment of the past." Thank you guys so much for watching this video. This took me a while to make, so if you enjoyed it, let me know in the comments down below, and let me know your opinion on this story. Remember to like if you enjoyed and subscribe for future sports field content. Have a good one, and cheers.